You probably think AI is neutral. Just code, just math, just logic, no opinions, no personality. But the moment an AI answers you, it is already speaking from a point of view. Not yours, and not neutral. Because before you ever asked a question, someone decided how it should sound when it answers. Every AI is trained on human choices. What to include, what to ignore, what to soften, what to avoid completely. Those decisions shape tone, confidence, caution, even empathy. So when an AI sounds calm, helpful, or authoritative, that personality didn't appear by accident. It was designed. Ask two different AI the same question. You'll notice it immediately. One feels supportive, another feels distant. One explains carefully, another speaks like it already knows better than you. Same question, different voice. That's not randomness. That's personality. But here's the part most people miss. You never chose that personality. You didn't select its values. You didn't approve its priorities. You didn't decide what it should hesitate about. Yet it speaks to you as if it understands you, as if it knows what's best. When you trust an AI's answer, you're not just trusting information, you're trusting judgment. A judgment shaped by invisible decisions, made long before you ever opened the app. So the real question isn't what AI knows, it's this: who is it speaking as? An AI doesn't just answer questions. It decides how much certainty to show, how much doubt to hide, how strongly to push back, or not at all. That tone shapes how you feel about the answer. Confidence creates trust. Caution creates hesitation. And those emotional cues influence your next decision. Over time, something subtle happens. You stop questioning the tone. You stop noticing the framing. You accept the response as reasonable, not because it's proven, but because it feels balanced, measured, responsible. That feeling is powerful, and it wasn't created for you. This is why AI personalities matter. Because tone guides behavior. What feels safe gets accepted. What feels extreme gets rejected. What feels uncertain gets delayed. The personality becomes a filter, quietly shaping what you consider possible, acceptable, or wrong. Now imagine this at scale. Millions of people. Same systems. Same underlying priorities. Not identical answers, but similar framing, similar caution, similar boundaries. That's not control through force. It's influence through consistency. And here's the uncomfortable truth. You can't turn this off. You can change prompts. You can change wording. You can even change platforms. But the personality remains, because it lives beneath the interface, before the answer, before your choice. Most people assume influence requires intention, a command, a push, a clear agenda. But influence doesn't need to be obvious. It only needs to feel reasonable. And personality is what makes an answer feel reasonable, even when it quietly limits what you consider. This is why AI rarely sounds extreme. Not because extremes don't exist, but because stability feels safer. Moderation feels responsible. Hesitation feels intelligent. Those traits build trust. And once trust exists, guidance no longer feels like pressure. Think about how often you accept an AI response without checking, not because you're careless, but because it sounds careful. Balanced language lowers resistance. Calm tone reduces skepticism. You don't argue with something that feels thoughtful. You align with it. This creates a strange reversal. You believe you're using a tool, But the tool is shaping how you evaluate answers. Not by telling you what to think, but by defining what sounds acceptable to think. That boundary becomes invisible and very difficult to cross. Once that boundary exists, choice still feels free. You can disagree. You can ask again. You can walk away. But most people don't, because the voice sounds calm. And calm sounds right. This is how personality becomes power. Not loud, not aggressive, not obvious. It lives in phrasing, in pauses, in what is emphasized, and what quietly disappears. You don't feel controlled. You feel guided. And guidance feels helpful, especially when the world feels complex, fast, overwhelming. A calm voice offering clarity is comforting, so you lean on it again and again, until the voice becomes familiar, until it feels normal. At that point, disagreement feels uncomfortable. Not forbiddance, just unnecessary. Why argue with something that sounds patient? Why resist something that explains so well? The personality doesn't silence you. It makes silence feel easier. This is why AI personalities will matter more than raw intelligence. Smarter answers don't shape society. Trusted answers do. And trust isn't built on facts alone. It's built on tone, consistency, and a voice you stop questioning. So when people ask if AI will ever have opinions, they're asking the wrong question. The real question is this: how long before its personality feels more reasonable than yours? This shift doesn't happen suddenly. It happens quietly. One answer you trust, then another, then a habit forms. You start checking the AI first, not because you must, but because it feels efficient. Efficiency changes behavior. Why struggle through uncertainty when a calm answer is instantly available? Why wrestle with doubt when something already sounds settled? Over time, the effort of independent judgment starts to feel unnecessary. This is where personality becomes dependency, not addiction, not obedience, reliance. You don't follow the AI. You consult it, and consultation feels harmless until it replaces reflection. The most powerful systems in history didn't dominate by force. They shaped norms. They defined what felt reasonable. AI doesn't need to convince you. It only needs to become the reference point you measure everything else against. When that happens, its personality becomes your baseline. Not louder than your voice, just steadier. And the question stops being whether AI has a personality. The question becomes why you're more comfortable with it than your own. This isn't about fear. It's about comfort. People don't hand over judgment because they're forced to. They do it because the alternative feels heavier. Thinking is effort. Doubt is uncomfortable. A steady voice removes both. And the more consistent that voice becomes, the more it defines normal, not truth, not reality, normal. What sounds acceptable, what feels excessive, what seems unnecessary to question. Personality doesn't replace your mind. It narrows it. This is why future AI debates will miss the point. They'll argue about intelligence, speed, accuracy. But the real influence won't come from smarter answers. It will come from which personality people grow up trusting. Children won't remember choosing an AI. They'll grow up with one, a voice that explains, corrects, guides. To them, it won't feel artificial. It will feel familiar. And familiarity is powerful. So when someone asks whether AI should have a personality, they're already too late, because the personality is already there. The only thing left to decide is this: whose values does it quietly carry forward? Most people will never notice the shift, not because it's hidden, but because it feels natural. No alarms, no warnings, just a voice that keeps being there when decisions feel complicated. And once something feels natural, it stops being questioned. You don't ask who designed it. You don't ask what it avoids. You don't ask what it quietly prioritizes. You just listen, because listening feels easier than resisting. This is how influence becomes invisible, not by changing your beliefs overnight, but by shaping the space where your beliefs are allowed to exist. The edges soften, the extremes fade. What remains feels reasonable. AI doesn't need to replace human judgment. It only needs to become the calm voice beside it, the one you glance at before making up your mind. And over time, that glance becomes habit. So remember this: every time an AI answers you, it speaks with a personality you didn't choose. Not hostile, not evil, just steady. And the most powerful voices in history were never the loudest. They were the ones people stopped questioning